Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Visit squarespace.com/BrendanVanson for more details. So I'm in the car waiting to board the ferry back to Horta. I see it's actually just arriving. One, I'm sad that we weren't able to photograph more here in Pico. Two, it's a scouting trip, so I'm also really stoked that we were able to scout so much and see so much. There are so many cool photo locations here, and I feel like I'm only scratching the surface. That surface scratching or exploration is going to continue now, so we have 2 nights on Horta Island as well. Weather's supposed to be bad again for another 24 hours, but hopefully we can get out and do some exploring. As we leave Pico Island back for Faial, I'm already planning photos in my head for the next time I'm here. It's such a cool place, and if you haven't seen the video from here, check out the card up in the top right. So I made it to Horta and the rain's kind of stopped, but it's super windy still, and yeah, definitely not getting a proper sunset tonight. I thought that since we weren't going to be able to do landscape photography, we'd go and explore a couple of the kind of destroyed infrastructure here. There's a lighthouse and a church that have both been wrecked up because of an earthquake in the 90s, and I thought maybe they'd make a cool photo, but unfortunately there's a green rope here saying access prohibited, and sadly I'm one of those people that kind of follows rules. So I'll see if I can make a photo from outside the rope. There are so many times I just selfishly want to forget about the rules, and I think if I was only doing photography for me, I'd be less of a rule follower. But there's a bit more of a responsibility when you share your work. So for now, I'll have to go with an image I've taken from way back with the road as a leading line. In the rain, we roll back through the bumpy country roads of Faial Island seeking out anything worthy of a photograph. This old church was also destroyed by the same earthquake, and I think in the right conditions, it would make a really nice subject. But right now, the weather's just a little bit too messy. Woof, the rain is back, the wind is picking up again. Yeah, I hope tomorrow morning things clear off a little bit. The truck scared me. So we've come this morning to a place that we scouted on the way into Horta from the airport when we first arrived, and it is overcast still, there's no light, but I think this is still a pretty dramatic location, dramatic photo, especially with the waves the way they are. We got waves crushing through this volcanic sea arch, and right now it's still too dark to do a shorter exposure. I'm at 15 seconds, and I think it actually looks pretty cool, pretty dramatic. I need a little bit of light, I think, in this frame, so we're gonna wait this out a little bit longer, but it's one of the reasons why you scout in the middle of the day, so that you can just rock up to locations like this and when the conditions are perfect. And the conditions aren't perfect, but they're pretty damn good. So despite the fact I'm not really moving my tripod, this is kind of a difficult shoot just because of the contrast of light. You've got really bright, albeit gray skies, and really bright, albeit gray seas. And then around us we have this really dark volcanic rock, and the contrast is just really tricky and hard to work with. I'm using a medium grad ND, just a 2-stop, to try to help me with the sky a little bit, but it's definitely tricky with this crazy contrast. Lightroom's definitely gonna have to help me here. The second reason it's difficult is because of the sea mist. Basically, the wind's blowing right in my face, and I keep getting sea mist hitting my camera and covering my lens and creating spots. So I'm needing to wipe down my lens after every other photo, and I forgot my microfiber towel in the hotel, so I'm using my t-shirts. Besides that, it's really a fun location. I've got a couple photos that I like, I think, composition-wise. One of them's a little bit more zoomed in, like a square crop. And then the other one's really wide, that's kind of using this arch on the top left and then wrapping around the bottom of the frame and then showing off the cliffs on the right as well. This is the type of location I love. It's the type of place I feel like I can just sit back and experience. I love watching the seemingly random rhythm of the waves as they shape the coast. But the contrasty light is just too much, so we move on. In hopes of finding some moody woodland scenes, we drive up the slopes of the caldera and into some eerie forests. Unfortunately, the rain and the wind is too much, and the best I can do is this photo leaning out of the car window. Okay, so the weather has not let off as the forecast said it would, and we're just walking up to do some location scouting anyway. Apparently, I'm looking into a volcano. Actually, you can kind of see a little bit. It's steep. I'm on the edge of a caldera. I'm on the rim of the volcano, if you will. But yeah, you can't see anything more than maybe up 50 meters away. It's a bit of a shame, just kind of getting skunked on the weather here on this island. I should also say, if anybody says, oh, in weather like that, you should just go into the forest. It's not just fog, it's like blasting cloud, if you will. And so anytime you put the lens up for more than a second, it just gets covered in condensation. And this is actually the only point we found so far today that hasn't actually been pouring rain. It's just been the misty stuff. So sadly, we haven't been able to get into the forest because there is some really cool forest. And just like that, it looks like, ow, slammed my finger in the door. Just like that, it looks like the storm has passed. Not ideal conditions, but better conditions, and we've come to the lighthouse for sunset. It's a cool location, but I wish I would have brought the drone because I think I would like to be higher than I can get here. But let's get the camera set up and try to find a photo. So if you could kindly ignore the misty state of my lens, that would be great. Seems I've underestimated the levels of sea mist today. Okay, I'm dealing with something I didn't think I was gonna be dealing with, which is way too much sunlight. I had in mind to photograph a composition from the other side of the lighthouse, but I didn't like it. I feel like you need to be higher, like drone height. So I've come over to this side, and because you have the lighthouse on the top left, and you have the rock over on the right, and I can kind of balance my frame with lighthouse, rock, but I'm shooting straight into the sun, which, yeah, it's not working. It looks really potentially cool, but it's just too strong right now. And so I'm kind of hoping that I get this moment where the sun goes right on the edge of the lighthouse, and I can either sun star it or just soften the light somehow. It's a pretty simple photo. I'm on my 14 to 35 millimeter f8, and I'm photographing at about 15 millimeters. It is f11, and I'm at 1/10 of a second for now, and I'll just continuously drop that as we go. I'm loving the texture on the water and the light on the water, so I hope this ends up being cool. I think it could be. I think actually this is one of those photos that you need to edit to appreciate. The heavy sea fog made it hard to see the actual frame, but I'm really happy with the result. I'm feeling like a bit of an amateur. I just switched to a longer exposure. Had 3 photos in a row. I couldn't figure out why they weren't sharp. The image stabilizer was on. Amateur hour. The sun's kind of gone behind the clouds, which is helping a little bit. And I have switched to a 30-second exposure with a 6-stop because I was hoping to get some drama in the sky. I just knocked my tripod, so this image won't be sharp either. I'm trying to get some drama in the sky, and I think it's working as long as this is sharp. It is also a little bit windy, so that's definitely not helping the sharpness either. So I almost go off the cliff. Yeah, but I'm so glad the sun's out again. Man, that was kind of a tough 24 or 48 hours of rain. I also like the long exposure. Look at the clouds! And this was only a 13-second exposure. They were humming. As it gets dark, we retreat to the hotel for the night. And in the morning, we make one last photo attempt before we end this trip to the Azores. Okay, we tried to do something a little bit different this morning and came above the town of Horta here on Faial Island. Woof! Because we've been shooting a lot of seascapes with this bad weather. There hasn't been much else to photograph. But the weather's been a little bit rougher this morning than we expected. The wind is up, very cloudy. And yeah, I think the photo's a pretty basic, like, cityscape vista. The Azores Islands have been incredibly beautiful, and I'm so happy we came here to do this scouting trip because I found so many cool locations. And a lot of those locations we didn't photograph on this trip just because of the bad weather, but I feel like there's so much potential here. And I'm really excited to come back next year with a full-on photo tour, not only to Faial Island, Pico, and São Miguel, but probably also Flores and São Jorge. So I think, yeah, I think I'm already excited to come back here. And hopefully on the next trip, the weather's a little bit better. I'll see you guys there. Peace. And now, a word from today's sponsor. Squarespace is a great place to build a website. There's a new guided design system with SEO optimizing tools, which will help make it easier for people to find you. As for professional tools, you can use the Squarespace platform to automate bookings and appointments. And there's also client invoicing and payment processing, which makes setting up an online store for your photography-based website really easy. So, if you're looking to build a website to help grow your business or showcase your work, visit squarespace.com/BrendanVanson for 10% off your first purchase.